9. Aln Mndlshn apparently convinced his parents that the riot wasn't his fault. That is, he had them somewhat convinced. They still insisted that he stay in the house for the whole weekend. That put an end to our plans for a book-buying trip to Hogborough on Saturday. I went over to Alan's house and hung around for a while on Saturday morning. He said his parents hadn't put any restrictions on where he went during his week of suspension. They figured that with me in school he wouldn't have any fun, since I was the only kid he went around with. He had mentioned to his mother that he might want to go to the museum in Hogborough to work on a science project. She had said that that would be okay. I said I wished I could be suspended with him. He said he wished I could too. Alan kept leafing through comic books. There wasn't too much conversation. I told Alan I had to go to the library. He walked me to the door. At the door, Alan said, "Leonard, I noticed that you were in the Believers yesterday." "Thanks. I appreciate that." At the library, I found a book in the children's section called Psychiatry Made Simple for Younger Readers. I checked it out. Also, I took out an adventure book called Howard Goldberg, Frontiersman. I got home in time for lunch. Grandfather and the old one had been invited over to a barbecue in the backyard. When I got there, they had already arrived. They were sitting in the house while my father stood over the portable barbecue, wearing a plaid wooden lumber jacket over his apron. It was really getting kind of cold for cookouts. "Leonard, are you crazy?" Grandfather asked me when I came through the door. "No, I'm not crazy," I said. "See," the old one shouted to my mother, who was in the kitchen. She was arranging some alfalfa sprouts the old one had brought for us to eat. My father was barbecuing chicken for us and nut cutlets for grandfather and the old one. "See, Louise, the boy says he's not crazy. Why are you sending him to a crazy doctor?" "He's not a crazy doctor," my mother shouted back. "He's a child psychologist, and he's helping Leonard adjust so he can do well in school." Melvin really loved grandfather. He was sitting in front of him, 3/4 awake, drooling on his knee. "Pooey," grandfather said. "Let the kid join the Navy for a couple of years. A few months at sea, and he'll be fine." "Leonard is only 12 years old," my mother said. "He can't join the Navy." "I was 11 years old when I joined the Navy," grandfather shouted. "No, 10 years old. I told them I was 23. I had a beard and hair on my chest. I was 6'4" tall, and because I never ate meat, because I never ate chicken, because I ate almost everything raw. You're cheating your son out of his birthright of good health." I wondered how grandfather could have been 6'4" tall when he was 10 years old. He was about 5'1" now. My father came in with the chicken and nut cutlets. My grandparents didn't want to eat the nut cutlets because they were cooked. My father kept insisting. He wanted to show off how good he was at barbecuing. "Just a few alfalfa sprouts for me," said the old one, "and some raw potato chips, and maybe a little yogurt." All through the meal, my father kept on trying to get her to taste the nut cutlets. After lunch, we all sat around, and grandfather talked about the Iturian rainforest pygmies. He said they run every place and clap their hands while they're running so they won't surprise a leopard. He also said that if you take pygmies out of the forest and into an open grassland, they get confused. They aren't used to being able to see more than 15 or 20 feet away. If they see a bunch of elephants a long way off, they will not think they are elephants that look tiny because they are far away, but little tiny elephants 15 or 20 feet away. Grandfather says he always wanted to go and visit the pygmies. The old one said she thought they were so small because of all the meat in their diet. The old one was much taller than a pygmy herself. She came up to grandfather's shoulder. After a while, my parents took my grandparents home. First, my father showed them how the radio-controlled electric garage door opener worked. Then they drove off. I decided not to go along for the ride. I wanted to read my book about psychiatry. The book was sort of interesting. I read it all evening Saturday and most days Sunday. School on Monday was more or less back to normal. Mr. Winter made a long speech on the public address system about how disgraceful everyone's conduct had been. He said that Bat Masterson students had certain traditions to uphold. He said that for years and years the Bat Masterson student had been a model to the world of good conduct, courtesy, and correct attire. He was ashamed of us all, and he was especially ashamed of that a student who did not have the true Bat Masterton spirit, had brought about such shameful behavior on the part of the boys and girls who had been brought up to know better. He went on and on as usual. What really got me was that the most of the kids acted as if they were really ashamed that they had let good old Bat Masterson down. I was let out early so I could go to my appointment with Dr. Prince. I caught the bus to Hogborough. Once again, I bought a cigar at the newsstand in the lobby. This time I bought one called a Fargo Brothers rum-soaked curlicue. This was a great big cigar that had a wavy shape. It turned out to be a terrific smoke. I didn't even need the bubble gum. It was soaked in some kind of sugary sweet rum, and it made sparks every now and then when you smoked it. "Well, Leonard, what kind of week have you had?" Dr. Prince asked me, once I had settled into the big chair, my Fargo Brothers rum-soaked curlicue sparking and burning away. "I had a lot of anxiety," I said. I picked up this from the psychiatry book I had read over the weekend. "Anxiety, eh?" Dr. Prince said, leaning forward in his chair. "Tell me more." "Well, I have these dreams, and I wake up sweating, and sometimes I can't tell if it's a dream or not," I said. This was all baloney. I'd gotten it from the book, too. Yes, tell me about these dreams," Dr. Prince said. He was leaning way forward in his chair, and he was puffing his pipe very fast. And he had his pen and pad poised, ready to write down whatever I said. "Well, in these dreams I've missed school, and they come and get me, and it turns out I wasn't really sick. That is, I didn't have a good excuse, and these people, teachers and principals, all say I had to be punished, and they take me to the electric chair. Then they strap me in, and my parents are there crying, and the principal gives the order to throw the switch, and then I wake up." Dr. Prince was writing furiously. There were beads of sweat on his forehead. He was puffing his pipe so hard that some little showers of sparks and ashes were flying all over the place and landing in his lap. "So do you think you'll be executed if you miss school, do you?" he asked. "Well, no," I said, sort of hesitating. "I mean, they wouldn't kill me for missing school, would they?" "Leonard, I want you to take a day off school," Dr. Prince said. "No, take the rest of the week off. Just stay home, or go to the movies, or do whatever you like. I will call Mr. Hines, the guidance counselor, and explain everything, and he'll call your parents." You mean not go to school?" I tried to sound frightened. "But what will they do to me? Won't I be punished?" "Nothing will happen to you, Leonard, my boy," Dr. Prince said. "Obviously, you are so tense about this, it is no wonder you are unable to do well in your classes. You just take the rest of the week off, and don't worry. You may feel a little nervous, but after you return to school and see that nothing happens to you, you will never have to be afraid again, and you won't have those dreams." "Are you sure?" I said. Couldn't I just come in late, say 5 minutes?" "Trust me, Leonard. Take the week off. It will be easy." That night I called Aln Mndlshn and told him I had the rest of the week off. We arranged to meet the next morning on the 9 o'clock bus to Hogborough.